Mafia States of America, which is
Yeah,
this whole
we
project
gotta
that
cover
we've been
that.
working on. I think, why don't we get into that a little bit? Do we want to finish with that, or do we want to get into that? We can.
Don't bury the
Let's get
lead.
right into it.
I
Don't
say
bury
we
the
get
lead.
into
Go
it.
right
I say
into
we
it.
get into it. So, look, Michael and Sammy, okay, this sit down. Everybody kept asking me, is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? Is it eventually going to be where these guys are going to sit together? I'll tell you my story of what happened behind closed doors. You've been a project, obviously. You've been the director of the project from beginning to the end. Sammy and I had a conversation 2 years ago when Sammy first got out of jail. And I say, hey, Sammy, how you doing? He says, you the guy that interviewed Michael Franzese? I said, yes. He says, what the kind of an interview was this? 2.5 hours, he just went trashing Michael. And I'm like, listen, Sammy, all I want to do is, why don't you and I get together? I wouldn't get together with nobody. So anyways, going back and forth, a month goes by, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. We follow up. I said, why don't I just come by and you and I sit down and visit? No. Great. So every time, no. 9 months later, he agrees. So we go to Phoenix, me and Mario. Hey, let's go have a sit down with Sammy. And he said, I want you to meet me at this location. We go to this one location. Guy comes outside. He picks us up. We walk all the way to the back of the building. You walk in. At the end of it, Mario's like, listen, it's getting a little too deep of a walk. It's getting darker. We get all the way to the end, and then boom, there's Sammy the Bucravano. We sit down. Couple hours, we're talking, He shares his thoughts. He says, let me think about it, what we're going to do. Then we finally do the interview. It pops, 12 million views. Short clips, everything together, 25 million views. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the interview, I'm like, Sammy, you know what would be great? What? Be great if you and Michael sat down together. What did you say? Me and Michael? Never happened. I'd never. It's okay. Now I go to Michael, and I present to Michael. Michael says, I'm not going to do it. So they've gone back and forth, calling each other out. Behind closed doors, I'm trying to see if we can make this happen or not. I understand why they wouldn't want to meet with each other because two different families. Finally, they agreed, and we met in a undisclosed location, security, the whole nine. You couldn't find where we were at, where we can't even tell the location right now, but we went to this place, we sat down. How many hours of footage do we have, by the way, of them talking, actually?
Oh, yeah, of them, the two of them talking.
15 hours, 16 hours?
Yeah, 16 hours.
16 hours of them talking.
Just them.
So imagine like a 16-hour podcast is what it is. So we came back, then we have Giuliani. How many hours was Giuliani? 3 hours?
3. At
his place.
No, that's 3 hours on camera. You guys chatted for like another 2 hours off camera.
What are how crazy were some of the things Rudy said, Gerard?
Honestly, it like to the point where we're concerned if we could put it out.
Some of the stuff we don't know if we can put out of what Rudy said. Some of the stuff we can. I know a lot of people are going to say, Pat, put the whole thing out. We definitely cannot put the whole thing out. I can tell you that. We own the footage. We can't put it out.
Not on YouTube.
Yeah, probably not on YouTube. And by the way, some of the stuff that Michael and Sammy said we may not be able to put on YouTube. But a lot of people have been asking about when is this coming out. And, Chaz Palminteri, legendary actor, Bronx Tale, all of these things.
Killed it.
He's also in it. He absolutely crushed it. And by the way, he was a writer. So he helped write.
He did, yeah.
A big part of it with you. You guys were co-writing together.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So it was a great experience. The question everyone's asking is, when is this thing coming out? We let the teaser out, which people are furious.
Well, are you ready to announce the release date? I could tell you when it's ready for delivery.
I don't know if we're going to announce the release date yet. I think we maybe let the trailer do
Fair enough.
its part by Friday. But I can say...
You want to tease the release date?
It ain't coming out for 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay,
I can say that
go.
for a fact. It ain't coming out for 4 to 6 weeks, so hang in there. There's a lot of pissed off people right now on Twitter, YouTube, everywhere saying,
what are they
why
pissed
do you
off
do
about?
this to us? Why isn't it coming out tomorrow? It ain't coming out for 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's going to be coming out soon. And the topics are some topics for about 4 to 5 weeks, we're thinking about doing 2 episodes every week for 4 to 5 weeks. The world is going to stop for 4 to 5 weeks. Each week it's going to be 2 episodes will premiere, and they're going to be glued to the screen. People sitting down together with popcorn. Remember how we did The Last Dance?
I was just going to say, this is very eerie of The Last Dance and Meets the Mafia right here.
Completely unscripted.
Yeah.
When just to be clear, when Pat's talking about writing, we're talking about narration. We're talking about writing the ins and the outs. There's absolutely nothing that was said. There's nothing that was that was orchestrated here. And this is as real and unscripted
Zero.
as it
Like
gets.
there was not one part where we said, "Hey, Michael, can you say that one more time? Hey, Sammy, can you say that one more time?" Like if they're going back and forth with each other and they were having a discussion about something, hey, can we get another cut on this? Sammy, say that one more time.
None of that. When's the last time they even sat in a room together?
Well, can I tell a story about what almost happened, or do you want to save it for behind the scenes?
Which part? Which story?
When we got there and everything was set.
Go for it. You tell it.
Man.
You tell it,
dude. So here we are. We've flown a 30-person crew halfway around the world. All right, and Pat's got $100,000 worth of gear and an entire crew set. We got there 4 hours early. We took this castle and we turned it into a set, and then we're waiting on set, waiting for talent, and they were still negotiating whether or not they were going to do this past call time. They were supposed to be on set
in a separate room,
9 a.m.
The two of them are
with
talking.
Michael's team and Sammy's team and me and Mario.
You must. You're a business guy, so you like this stuff. My balls would have been in my throat. I got $200,000 worth of loss sitting 50 yards away.
It's not done, by the way,
dude. What did I tell you?
Gerard's like, what are you doing?
Like,
what are we doing here?
I was like, what? Did you not have a contract? What the hell are we doing here, man? Like, did you just jump out of an airplane and hope somebody threw down a parachute? Like, what the hell happened
Crazy,
here?
but crazy. Yeah. And by the way, this entire time I'm talking to Rudy Giuliani. We're going back and forth. Rudy's pissed off. We're trying to make it work with Rudy.
He was supposed to fly.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that later, but that's a completely different thing. But
and Rudy's the guy who brought down the mob, right? That's the reason that you wanted to have his insight.
Rudy has to be a part of this. So Rudy, you have to realize, man, outside of everything that people say with Rudy and Trump, prior to Rudy and Trump, Rudy was like the alpha man, a top 10 alpha man of America, mayor of New York, G-Man Award, whatever.
Say what you want about Rudy. The man saved New York City. I lived through it. The man saved New York City.
Well, he was a hero in the 90s.
4,000 people got arrested. 4,000 arrests. How many people over 100 years? 8 got over 100 years. Some ridiculous number, like what this guy did.
But back to my original question. When's the last time Sammy and Michael actually sat down and spoke?
But here's what you have to realize.
Never.
They've never spoken.
The last time made men sat down face to face to do something like this, you know when's the last time that happened?
No.
It's called never.
Wow.
This has never happened. And if it's happened, it's behind closed doors. Never with cameras. It's the first time ever.
Yeah.
And by the way, you have to realize, there's a group of people that are saying Sammy's going to win the sit-down. And there's a group of people that are leaning towards Franzese. Matter of fact, we have a website, Mafia States of America, a lot of unique merches coming out. A lot of people are asking about autographs. We're going to be doing this poster, Mafia States of America, signed by Michael, Sammy, limited edition. It's probably going to be only the first 100 or maybe the first 500 that we'll do. That comes out where you're going to be able to put that on the wall. There are some that are saying Michael's going to win the sit-down. There are some that are saying Sammy's going to win the sit-down. And matter of fact, if Michael or Sammy I got to make this call to them as well. We may bring them on the podcast pre-release. Individual, we got to do it individually, obviously. We may bring Michael, and we'll have him 1 week. We may bring Sammy the next week on a podcast like this.
Wow.
To discuss their experience before this going live.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be sick if we do that.
They're pretty heated up, man. they were pretty
make a
heated
note of that. Make a note of that for me to make the phone call afterwards.
But what was nuts was like the history, more than like the history of America. More than anything else. Like, you don't even have to be a mob fan. You don't need to have to be like a mafia.
That was going to be my question, actually.
Dude,
is how does the normal person...
the stuff that they talked about Hoffa, about Kennedy, the stuff that they talked about, I mean, I don't know how deep you want me to go into it, but like the Joe Bonanno book, like this, dude, it would, like as a history buff, as a political aficionado, man.
Mario
like,
Cuomo came up. Mario Cuomo came up by both Giuliani and Franzese and Gravano.
Well, he's the Italian governor of New York.
Yeah,
I mean,
but apparently what everybody said, the affiliation with the mob. So Mario was apparently connected. Giuliani said, I won't release, I'll let them tell the story and what it was. But it was very interesting on the angle they took and how they felt about Andrew, how they felt about Mario Cuomo, what role he played in the streets of New York, the level of respect. Very, very unique angle that they took. And then there was a couple parts where, they talk about how all the industries that were a part of that was illegal, now they're multi-billion-dollar industries. You have to hear how they explain it, like how they trained the U.S. government to do it. Like they trained essentially. Their strategies and tactics are being used today by the U.S. government and are being used today by Fortune 500 companies. That's why it's called Mafia States of America, right? The whole idea is we trained the Mafia United States. They were a part of it. Like even think about Bank of America. You know Bank of America used to be Bank of Italy.
No.
If you go look up, did you know this or no? Hey, Kai, can somebody come up here, jump on Wikipedia real quick? Type in Wikipedia, Bank of America. Kai stepped out. If you can come up here, Bank of America, before Bank of America became Bank of America, was Bank of Italy. You have no idea.
No.
Type in Bank of America.
Hey, there's David.
Type in Bank of America, David. By the way, David, how you doing?
Doing well.
Doing good. All right, good.
He's been waiting for this moment for weeks.
No, man. David's ever since. Okay, go Wikipedia. Go Wikipedia. Go down to Wikipedia. Try to find Bank of America. Go lower. Wiki. Okay, good. Type in the Control F Italy. Okay, there you go. Right there. Right there. Shows right there. One branch of its history stretches back to Bank of Italy, founded by Bank of Italy, from Bank of America, October 17, 1904. Bank of Italy founded the Bank of Italy in San Francisco in 1900. Bank of America. So the whole thing started off with them giving loans to Italians, because back then nobody would give Italians loans because they didn't think highly of Italians. They thought like, oh, you know, there was names for Italians, just like there's a lot of different names for them. Same. So they started off supporting them, and in Bank of Italy.
This is early 1900s. Early 1900s. Late 1800s. Yeah.
The monstrosity that it is today.
Wow.
So the power and the influence of the Italian community and the Italian mob is very much deep-rooted in the history of America the last 100 years. I mean, really. So, you know, when this thing comes out, everybody's right now talking about, you know, the biggest conversation is, will Michael's approach win or will Sammy's approach win? And there's a team Franzese, there's a team Gravano.
Two heavyweights.
Two heavyweights.
And what families are they with?
Colombo and Gambino.
Yeah.
Who's Colombo?
Franzese.
Okay,
And by the way, Sammy was with, he was with Gambino. He was with another family.
Colombo wanted him, yeah.
And they kind of made the trade, you know, and they said, hey, you ain't going to be able to work out over here. And they went to the Gambino family, and then obviously he became the underboss for John Gotti. So,
can I ask you it's kind of a weird question, but it's in the light of The Last Dance, right? So, you know, like I've seen Goodfellas, I've seen Casino. I've got who doesn't love these kind of movies, right? Obviously, by the way, kudos to you, by the way. I mean, if you guys understood what Gerard was doing, these guys sleeping on couches over here just to get this job done.
A whole team.
It's really impressive. No, it's really impressive. Awesome. But for sort of the layman, you know, in The Last Dance mold, is there a Michael Jordan of the Mafia? Who would Sammy be? Who would Franzese be?
That question was asked.
I'm opening up a can of worms here. I get it. Who are these characters in the, you know, if to use the NBA analogy, would you do something like that?
Listen, I'll let them answer it because they actually addressed that question where, you know, where Michael said, who was the greatest? Because LeBron came up and Jordan came up, then like, who's the greatest gangster of all time? And they were kind of going back and forth saying who it was, who it wasn't.
I'll give you one interesting one.
Yeah.
Rudy doesn't think it was an Italian. Rudy thinks it was a Jewish guy. Greatest gangster.
Which you know where that goes, by the way. That only goes one side on where this thing goes to.
Meyer Lansky? Where's this going?
I mean, Meyer was Meyer. You
got the Brain. Then they call him the Brain.
Meyer was. I don't know. You're familiar with the Jewish community?
I've known a couple.
He's legit, by the way.
I've known a couple Brains.
So was Ben Siegel. So were a few of these guys.
Siegel, of course.
You don't call him Bugsy. They say you call him Bugsy.
The Jews and the Italians work together. Very closely, because at the end of the day, they said
Irish as well back in the day. It was all immigrants.
Similar treatment that Italians got, the Jews got. So there was a little bit of they related to each other. There was a certain
anti-immigrants.
Yes,
well, that's the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, like, to talk about that, I mean, the history of the mob is really kind of the history of immigration in America, especially in cities.
Yeah.
The Jews were the OGs. So, like, when you talk about St. Patrick's Day. And what do you think St. Patrick's Day? You think corned beef, cabbage? It's actually
alcohol.
Yeah,
I think alcohol.
That's true. But the corned beef and cabbage there's no corned beef and cabbage in Ireland. That was something that the Jewish, I guess, settlers, well, however you call them, the original Jewish immigrants in New York City, they taught the Irish immigrants. There was no refrigeration. They taught them how to salt their meat. They taught them how to boil the cabbage. So the corned beef and cabbage is an Irish immigrant remembrance from when they came over here, and they were second class, third class citizens. You can look at, I mean, if people want to really go deep into the history of, like, I'm Irish, so obviously this matters to me, but if people want to go deep into the history, you can look, and it says no colored, no Irish applied. They were actually called Irish N-words. If you Google it, you know, there's a whole Harper's Bazaar where they were thought of as, you know, the northern black. So
and by the way, here's the other part about this. That's a interesting point you're making. The one interesting part about this whole thing that's going on with Sammy and Michael is there's a big community that doesn't want to see this go live.
Oh, I'm sure there's people that do not want this to happen.
I mean,
right?
the emails and the calls we're getting, there's a big community that's not happy about this. The DMs privately coming to us. There is a massive community that does not want to see this thing take place.
Well,
a massive community.
Would you share who this community is?
I can't do. Of course,
I cannot. Of people.
I can't even tell you, like, you know. But it's connected to that life. But there's a big community that doesn't want to see this become live because, hey, you're telling a story, two men who have experience in this, and Michael's dad wasn't just any man. He was Sonny Franzese, 55 years time in prison, one of the most feared men in the streets of New York, in the streets of America. He claims to have been with everybody. And this is not a guy that brags about it. One day I was in New York driving him around. We spent a whole day together. I was trying to get him to do an interview. Wouldn't open up nothing. That guy wouldn't say anything. That's Michael. That's who trained Michael. So think about who trained Michael is Sonny. Sonny comes from the era of Lucky, Meyer, Costello. 104 years old means you were 20 years old in 1940.
Yeah, that's not.
So just think about that. You're 20 years old in the 30s.
Hold on, how old is he?
He died at 104 years old, 103 years old. So
How long ago?
He died a year and a half ago.
Wow.
So
he took everything to the grave.
He took everything to the grave, wouldn't say anything. I drove him. I said, hey, tell me about Meyer Lansky. Is it true he was a billionaire? He was the richest man? He says, Meyer was a great man. I said, how about Lucky? How about Ben Siegel? He said, how about Bugsy? What do you think? I said, don't call him Bugsy. You can't call him Bugsy. You cannot call him Bugsy. His name is Ben. You call him Ben Siegel. I said, how about Ben Siegel? He says, Ben Siegel, one of the best men I ever did business with. I said, are you kidding me? Sonny, the stories you read about Ben Siegel, what he did, great man. I said, Sonny, how about your story? A lot of people say you took a lot of people out. They say you were one of the most feared men in the streets. I was innocent. It's just like going. So, and then on Sammy's side, Sammy's bringing history. Sammy's still loyal to the life. He still is a gangster. Like Sammy still today, he may be free, but Sammy is not Michael, who was a changed man. So there is two different worlds colliding, and there's communities on both sides that don't want the sit-down to take place.
Well, I would tell you that you know one of my concerns going into it was I kind of grew up in that environment, and my father hated the mob. My God, and he hated them. He thought these guys were bullies and all this other stuff. And I was just like, this to me is interesting. These are very, very interesting guys. This is we have to document. This isn't a part of American history that's going away.
Yep.
We have to document this, right? This is something that these are stories that need to be told. This is part of the fabric of our society. This is something that made us who we are. But I didn't want to glorify the crime. I didn't want to do this.
You don't
as
romanticize.
I didn't want to do this.
Rudy does not.
Well, this is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
The thing probably you did better than anything else in producing this and hosting it. You pressed these guys. This was not a puff piece by any chance. You pressed these dudes on every step of the way. Every kind of excuse they gave you, you pressed back, you pushed back. Why didn't you just go legit? Obviously, this model works. You should have went legit.
This is a different kind of an interview. It's a very technical interview because you would ask a question, we would go a little deeper, and then they went. And they went,
which is awesome.
and we're sitting on extracting the best part to put it in. The Gerard's done a great job putting that together. Anyways, I cannot wait for the world to see this when this premieres in the next 4, 6, 8 weeks. And by the way, people who are upset about it, listen, we can put it somewhere else and charge you $100 if you're upset about it. We can come out, or we can do it the right way. And by the way,
because this is all going on YouTube.
Here's a question for you. Do you think a Netflix, a Hulu, and Amazon wants the rights to this? 30 hours of footage?
Are you kidding me?
They'll cut a multi-million-dollar check easily. We don't need the money for this. This is something I want the world to see. I want the world to see this. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this. We're going to own the rights to this for as long as Valuetainment can hold the rights to this. I mean, this is going to be the first biggest project where we put a good amount of money into. Chava $500,000 at this point. Into to make this happen.
This is the biggest project in Valuetainment history.
It's in the history ever. It's not even close.
This is creating history. I mean, it's nuts. And that the production value. Look, we're working hard on it, man. But I think the people are gonna love it. I really do. I think people are gonna
it's
last thing before we move on. I'm just talking about the teaser that went out. It was what, a minute long? How long was it?
50 seconds, 47 seconds.
Yeah. Awesome, captivating. Chaz comes in. This is a true story. This isn't amazing, right? You're captivated. And like the first line you really hear Sammy say to Michael, and this is what I want you guys to explain, is like, what happened to Omerta? And you fucking did this and da da da, and like, and you said Sammy's still in that life. Just explain that, the Omerta and the whole thing with Sammy's and Sonny not speaking.
But you got to realize Sammy's still a gangster. Sammy is still and Sammy called Michael out hardcore. I mean, Sammy called Michael out. It was a direct call out, and Michael didn't back down, and they went head to head. Like, there's certain areas, like, you'll see Michael, you're like, well, Michael, just kind of is probably going to be passive in that area. Michael pushed back. And there are certain areas where Sammy is just brutal, zero filters. Again, for the people that have followed these stories, they're going to be glued to the screen. And it's very technical because in the world of the mob, It is a very technical conversation, yet at the same time, they're both good storytellers. So you're hearing it from, two men who have been able to sit down with some of the most powerful people in the mob last however many years.
Yeah.
It's going to be...
And Pat, how many hours have you spent sitting down with the mob? I mean, at this point, you got to be some sort of made man.
Where I'm somewhat qualified.
Exactly. That's what I was just gonna say.
Well, look, I don't want to sound like a salesman here, but you do have to go to Mafia States of America because you're talking about Omerta. There's going to be so many esoteric terms. That's also been an interesting part of this. Is like these terms are terms I grew up with. I just assumed everybody knew them. No. And then our production assistants. Like I'm talking with one of our production assistants is like a 21-year-old Latina girl from Miami, and she's like she thought Bensonhurst was a guy. She had no idea that was. Yeah. She had no idea.
You got to get out of your liberal East Coast bubble, Gerard.
She was like, I'm having her batch B-roll, and she's like, for the life of me, I can't find a picture of this Bensonhurst. I was like, Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, the part of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Are you serious? So we're gonna have a glossary of terms to get brushed up on, so you know what Omerta is, you know what these places are.
We may even afterwards do behind the scenes because I think some people would want to see some of the stuff that we did behind the scenes. If we can get a behind the scenes put together, people got to see how this was behind closed doors because all the other stuff is great.
It was intense.
Yeah, it was intense. Anyway, so again, stay tuned.
Well, congratulations, guys. This was awesome. This looks amazing.
6, 8 weeks, maybe 10. We're trying to get it closer to 6. Stay tuned. And by the way, here's what we may do. Here's what we may do. We may, after all the episodes have gone live, we may host a live event with all the parties involved. And a Q&A session. We may just bring them up.
How are you going to get them to play nice in the same room?
I have no idea, but we may do something.
Figured it out along the way.
We may do something like that, like get a hall with it down. Maybe do something here in Florida. Maybe we'll do like a Fontainebleau, or we'll take something, a neutral place, and we'll go in, and audience will be able to buy tickets. I foresee those tickets selling out in no time, and we'll MC it and host it and bring them out. And
I think that would crush it. Are you freaking kidding me?
You know what would be funny is to see the guest list. The guest list is what would be funny, and the kind of security you'd need, and how you need to escort everybody.
And the FBI just sitting there going,
saying, can we get access to the guest list? Anyways, all right, so that's going to be interesting. Stay tuned. 4, 6, 8 weeks, maybe 10 weeks. So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.